to another episode of A Better Way of Earning. I am your host, Dr. Michelle S. Thomas. Before we dive deeper into skills and careers and opportunities, thank you guys also for everyone who has subscribed and downloaded and presented feedback to me. This has been an amazing journey thus far. But I wanted to take a pause for a minute and really address something deeper about earning. Money is not just economic, it is emotional. Most of us believe our financial decisions are logical. We tell ourselves we're making rational choices based on facts, opportunities, and circumstances. But neuroscience tells us something very different. Research in behavioral economics shows that up to 90% of financial decisions are influenced by emotional responses rather than purely analytical reasoning. That means the way we earn, spend, save, negotiate, and invest is shaped not only by knowledge, but by our emotional relationship with money. Today, we're going to explore something many people rarely discuss openly: the emotions of earning. Let's start with the brain. When we experience financial uncertainty, whether it's job instability, debt, or economic headlines, the brain activates the amygdala. That's the region responsible for detecting threats. This triggers the body's stress response. The result: we move into a survival thinking mode. Survival thinking narrows perspective and prioritizes short term security over long term strategy. This is why people sometimes stay in unhealthy jobs, avoid negotiating salary, delay starting businesses, hesitate to invest, and distrust new opportunities. It is not always a lack of knowledge, it is often a stress response. According to the American Psychological Association, money consistently ranks as one of the top sources of stress globally. That stress doesn't just affect finances, it impacts relationships, health, and decision making. But there's another layer. Our relationship with money is also shaped by early conditioning. Behavioral researchers often refer to these patterns as money scripts. Money scripts are unconscious beliefs we develop about money growing up. Examples include: money is scarce, talking about money is uncomfortable, rich people are greedy, security comes from stability. These beliefs quietly shape our financial behaviors as adults. Global financial studies show that financial literacy rates remain relatively low worldwide. Again, I want to stress that is not about your intellect, it is not about your money management, it is the entire bubble or ecosystem of financial literacy. A Standard and Poor's Global Financial Literacy Survey found that only one third of adults globally demonstrate basic financial literacy. But even among individuals who understand financial principles, emotional response can still override logic. For example, during market downturns, many investors sell assets out of fear, even though long term data suggests that staying invested historically produces strong outcomes. I want to give you a different example. So, a lot of times, or oftentimes, we look at people who work in the financial world and we expect or assume that what they do at work translates consistently in how they manage their money at home. And I'm not saying this is a blanket statement, but what I have seen is back to this emotional relationship with money. When you are in the finance world and you are handling multi-billion dollars of money and transactions and balancing for companies, that process is usually managed by fundamentals, strategy, SOPs, etc. If you take that same person and you bring them home and they are in a emotional unhealthy or an emotionally charged environment at home, let's say that the money management between the relationships of the two spouses don't match, that financial savvy person, that individual can very easily make different financial decisions at home because of a stress response. Doesn't mean that they forgot how to manage finances between the drive home from work. It's because they're in a different environment where they are trying to not only balance money, but they are managing relationships while they're balancing that money. I wanted to tell you that because I hear this all the time, especially from, you know, spouses or whatever, and they're like, "Well, that's what they do at work, so why is it that they behave differently at home?" Well, most often than not, it's because they're not in an environment at home where their expertise is able to be executed on the level that it is at work because you guys or that relationship has brought in the emotion and everything else that's coming with that relationship. This pattern illustrates an important truth. Knowledge alone doesn't always change behavior, understanding emotion does. So, we're going to talk about three exercises that can help strengthen your emotional relationship with earning. Now, this is not your marriage or your relationship, but we have to start with ourselves as individuals. So, we're going to talk about how you, as an individual, can strengthen your emotional relationship with earning, and hopefully, for the household, this can be a tool that can be used with every person in the household to help minimize those stress responses. The first thing that you need to do is identify your money story. And I'll tell you, one of my conferences a few years ago, I had an amazing young lady that I will bring on to the podcast. And she talked about your money story. She has an amazing book out. And at the end of the episode, I'll tell you guys about how you can get a copy of that book. But what she talked to my audience about is just generational relationships and pass down information of how we even connect with money. What I need to challenge you to do is to really sit down and identify your money story. Write down the messages you've heard about money growing up. What were you told? Was money a evil thing? Was money a scarcity mindset? Was money a tool, or was money generational where this is something that you're used to being around and understanding how to manage it? And I want to pause there. I want to put a pin right there because a lot of times people think that if you're born into money that it better prepares you of how to manage money. But we've seen time and story after story of third, fourth generations of wealthy families where there's someone in that family or somebody that becomes the caretaker of that family's legacy, and they blow it basically. And where does that come from? If you come from this long generation of money, well, just as impactful growing up in poverty can be on some people. Growing up with excessive amounts of money can have the same level of detriment depending on how that individual viewed the money and the access to the money that they had. So I just want to put that out there. This is not just about people who did not grow up with money. There are people that grew up with lots of money that still has a very unhealthy relationship with earning. Back to the advice. Write down the messages that you heard about money growing up, good, bad, or indifferent. And then evaluate if they were centered around, as I said, fear, security, opportunity, or struggle. Were you pressured into understanding that it was on you to save the family? A lot of men grow up with this type of pressure as young boys, especially when you grow up in a single mother environment. These young men at the ages of 7, 8, 9 are immediately conditioned to understand that they, through sports or education or whatever the means is, they were going to be responsible to get their family into a different status or financial circumstance. And that's a lot of pressure that you put on a kid. We'll talk about that in another episode. Understanding these narratives helps to reveal the belief system influencing your decisions today. You'll be surprised at how many subconscious decisions that you have made throughout your lifetime that stem directly from the identity of your money story. Step two, let's begin to learn how to separate stress from strategy. When making financial decisions, pause and ask yourself, am I responding to fear or responding to information? This small pause allows the rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, to re engage. So let's go back to this amygdala. I classify the amygdala as the fire chief of your nervous system. So, what happens is a signal gets to your amygdala that you are under attack, whether it is a physical attack or emotional attack or financial attack. The amygdala doesn't know the difference. It is there to protect your body from being attacked. And so, what the amygdala does when it receives the signal or indication that your body is under attack, it sends messaging and hormones to your nervous system. It is a mayday. Mayday, 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 we are in trouble. I mean, we can go back into just the origin of the human race. Before technology, before all of these additional fast moving activities and developments that we have encountered in the last episode, we discussed the changes and growth that every generation goes through. So if we go back into a more prehistoric environment and look at how the body was created, your amygdala was designed to really focus in on attacks, whether it was from animals or whether it was from other people. It was the control system for your body and your hormones and your nervous system to be able to protect you as the person. So, if that's the origin story of the amygdala, we now bring it into modern day times where we sometimes can sit at our desk for hours or days doing work. We're not getting exercise, we're not getting out, but we're still under the same level of stress. Did you know that your amygdala does not know the difference between someone who is physically about to harm you and the stress that you feel when you cannot pay a bill? That's a powerful thing that I want you to sit with. It doesn't know the difference. So it is designed in its own systematic process to protect your body. What it does is it sends a signal to your nervous system and it floods your body with cortisol and hormones and adrenaline so that your body can go into the fight or flight stage. If you're being physically attacked, that strength, that extra burst of adrenaline helps you to escape or fight back. However, back to what I just if it's a bill that you don't have the money to pay, or there are, insurance things or stress at home because you're not making enough money to be able to support your family, if it's that emotional attack on your body still fills up with the cortisol, with the hormones. Your prefrontal it doesn't physically shrink, but it now shifts some responsibility and thought process directly into the core of your nervous system, because right now you don't have time to really process through. You're under attack, you have to react. It takes all of the energy from every other part of your brain and focuses it on the body's ability to fight back. But if it's a bill, what happens then? Where does all that adrenaline go? Where does all that energy get dissipated? And so we ask ourselves a lot about why our health, generation over generation, we're more reliant on medications. We have new diseases and medical issues than we've ever seen before. It's because our bodies are still designed in the same way that it was hundreds and thousands of years ago, but we have a new level of stress that's coming from not a physical attack, but a mental attack. When we're talking about separating stress from strategy, it helps for you to understand what's going on internally in your body. So while you're sitting behind your desk, and you're opening bills, and you could just feel the stress build up. Well, that is the hormones and the adrenaline building up in your body. My best advice to you is to get up and move, because that energy, those hormones need to dissipate and go somewhere. The same as if you were fleeing from being attacked, or if you were fighting for your life. When that fight is over, you are completely drained. Well, some of us have experienced that same emotional or physical exhaustion after we've gone through a mental stress process. And that's because your body now is full of hormones and adrenaline, and it has nowhere for it to go. And so it then begins to attack your blood pressure and your nervous system, and you move from a a phase of stress into chronic stress. And when you're entering into chronic stress, your parasympathetic nervous system never engages. That's your brake system. Your nervous system is divided into two systems. You have your sympathetic and your parasympathetic. The sympathetic, think of it as the gas pedal. It is the go to tell your nervous system that we need to be strong, we need to be active. Where your parasympathetic nervous system is the brake system. It is where, when you are breathing or doing breathing exercises or meditating, your body decreases the amount of stress hormones in your body and gives it time to repair. And again, I know someone's thinking, why are we going into all this? Because listen, you guys, it is vital for us, in order for us to be better stewards of our earning potential. We have to understand it from a full 360 view, not just from the cash. You have to understand that there is a emotional, physical, and mental impact that earning and money brings in, which determines why you react differently to money shortages or imbalance in your financial stability. It is because your money story dictates your relationship with money. The better that you become with separating stress from strategy will help you to minimize that survival thinking process that causes some of us using unproductive strategies to solve our money issues instantly. And the third exercise that I want to challenge you with is build financial self trust. Confidence in earning does not come from luck, it comes from preparation. The more we understand skills, markets, opportunities, and financial systems, the more confident our decisions become. Self trust reduces emotional volatility. Ask yourself one honest question. What emotions arise when I think about money? Is it fear? Do you feel under pressure? Do you feel freedom? Or do you feel the huge weight of responsibility? Understanding these emotions is not weakness, it's awareness. And awareness is where financial growth begins. I promised you before we wrap that I would talk to you a little bit about the young lady who came to my conference and really talked us through understanding our money story and how it impacts the decisions that we make. And the name of her book is called The Invisible Cost: From Traumatized to Normalize, a guide to rewriting your financial story. And it's written by D. Sherelle Cohen's MBA. And this book is an amazing book for especially people that are starting out. The Invisible Cost isn't another money management book. It's a healing manual for your finances and your faith in yourself. Through raw storytelling, practical strategy, reflective coaching, Dee Sherelle helps you trace how financial trauma has shaped your habits, decisions, self worth, and guides you to rewrite the story with intention. Each chapter blends real life examples, journal prompts, and guided exercises that turn awareness into action so you can finally build wealth that feels aligned with your values. Whether you're an entrepreneur, corporate professional, or simply rebuilding from loss, this book shows you how to move from survival to strategy, from fear to freedom, and create a financial plan that feels like peace, not pressure. I'll tell you a little bit about the author. D. Sherelle Cohen's MBA is a trauma of money practitioner, CFO strategist, and business and accounting professor. Her company, FinTrom, bridges emotional healing and financial strategy to help leaders rebuild confidence, stability, and sustainable wealth. We will have Dee Sherelle on the show in later episode of the podcast. And we're also launching, I'm so excited to tell you, we're launching a Better Way of Earning talk show where we are coming to you guys. We're traveling from city to city and interviewing amazing people and experts like Dee Sherelle, where we can dive a little deeper into some of the topics that we're talking about during the podcast. So, if you guys are interested in getting a copy of this book, I will have a link in the description of the podcast. I also will give you a link if you're interested in being an expert guest on the upcoming talk show. I'll also give you a link where you can fill out a form and we'll reach out and let's talk about it. It's very important for me at a better way of earning to remove a lot of the fear, the misunderstanding, the misconceptions that we have built over time about earning and our earning potential. Conversations around earning often focuses on strategy, opportunity, and systems. But before any of those things can work effectively, we must better understand ourselves, our beliefs about money, our emotional responses to uncertainty, and our level of trust in our abilities all shape the choices that we make. When we begin to understand those patterns, we gain something incredibly powerful: perspective. And perspective allows us to respond thoughtfully rather than react emotionally. As we close today's conversation, remember this: earning is not just about income, it's about understanding the forces that influence how we think, decide, and build our future. As always, if today's conversation resonated with you, take time to reflect on it. And if you want to continue exploring these ideas, you can find us across the A Better Way of Earning ecosystem. You can listen to the podcast and the talk show conversations, explore the workforce insights through our blog, The Job Hunt Chronicles, and discover how professionals are building opportunity through Ascent Global Marketplace. Because the future of hiring isn't applying, it's being discovered. Until next time, stay aware, stay prepared, and most importantly, stay in ownership of your choice.